pro-life agenda. Donald Trump puts his plan in writing, how it would protect unborn babies. And Trump rejects the birther movement after years of fanning the flames, why the controversy may not go away. Iraq plans to liberate Mosul, why one archbishop says Christians may not want to return. And new bishops go back to school, how the Vatican is trying to help them prepare for their new role in the spotlight. On EWTN News Nightly for Friday, September 16th, 2016.
President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period.
Donald Trump tries to sever ties with the birther movement, which questioned President Obama's citizenship. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Lauren Ashburn. For years, Donald Trump had been one of the most prominent birther advocates, saying President Obama wasn't born in the United States. Well, today, EWTN was there when the Republican nominee put the theory to rest. Jason Calvi has the story. Jason.
Lauren, I have never seen a press event like what I saw here today. Reporters jumping on their chairs, shouting at the top of their lungs. Donald Trump had promised a major announcement on this whole birther controversy. His words, though, were quite brief.
Trump's new luxury hotel just opened this week in Washington. Under the ballroom's chandelier, Trump crashed the birther claims, which launched him into Republican politics 5 years ago.
President Barack Obama was born in the United States, period. Now we all want to get back to making America strong and great again. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Trump shut the door on one theory, but he's opening another.
Hillary Clinton and her campaign of 2008 started the birther controversy. I finished it.
We haven't seen any evidence to suggest Hillary Clinton challenged Obama's citizenship when the two ran against each other in 2008. Some Clinton-backing bloggers did push the theory 8 years ago. A mile from Trump's event, Clinton spoke.
Imagine a person in the Oval Office who traffics in conspiracy theories and refuses to let them go, no matter what the facts are.
The man at the center of the controversy also weighed in.
I was pretty confident about where I was born. I think most people were as well. And my hope would be that the presidential election reflects more serious issues than that.
But some here today still aren't convinced.
She could have given birth to him in Hawaii. I don't know. I wasn't there.
Donald Trump spoke about the issue for just over 30 seconds. Then reporters stood on chairs and shouted,
"Take some questions! Mr. Trump, take some questions!"
He didn't. Another Trump supporter who's running for Congress says it's time to move on.
I don't have any idea why it came to the forefront now, other than maybe to draw attention away from some of the more substantial questions that we have. And so I think his effort is to move the conversation back to the important issues.
Cable news networks broadcast the press event live today as one military veteran after another praised Donald Trump. Then at the very end, Lauren, Donald Trump came up to give his birther comments.
Okay, Jason Calvi reporting in Washington, D.C. from Trump International Hotel. Well, Donald Trump lays out his pro-life agenda and picks a pro-life leader to join his campaign. He released a letter to pro-life leaders saying he is committed to nominating pro-life justices to the U.S. Supreme Court. It says signing into law the Pain-Capable Unborn Child Act, which would end painful late-term abortions nationwide, defunding Planned Parenthood as long as they continue to perform abortions, and reallocating their funding to community health centers that provide comprehensive health care for women, and making the Hyde Amendment permanent law to protect taxpayers from having to pay for abortions. Marjorie Dannenfelser is the president of the Susan B. Anthony list and was just named national chairwoman of the Trump campaign's pro-life coalition. Congratulations.
Well, thank you. It's an honor.
It's a wonderful victory for the pro-life movement. Tell me what your role is going to be in the campaign.
Well, I'm leading the pro-life coalition across the country, so we'll have national chairs and then we'll have state chairs, and we'll be particularly focused on battleground states where the election will be won or lost because the vote margin will be just so tight.
So tight. You know, he sent a letter out yesterday and then also announced your position, and he said this, which is quite a statement. Hillary Clinton also supports abortion until an hour before birth. That is a very strong statement. He is the only pro-life candidate.
It is. There is a choice. It is a stark choice, and the consequences are enormous, Lauren. I mean, we were talking about this yesterday in our office about what will our agenda be under a Hillary Clinton presidency with a Supreme Court that is solidly against any protections. It's going to be a heavy, almost impossible lift if she is that for many decades. I mean, so yeah, he is the pro-life one, and he's great.
He's in stark contrast
yes.
To her, and you have several things that you are going to do. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, what really matters in the final analysis is their policy commitments. His policy commitments are to defund Planned Parenthood, to nominate only pro-life judges, to stand firm on the Hyde Amendment that has actually come out very, very recently, and to pass the Unborn Child Protection Act. That's the ban after 5 months. These are the priorities, and he's been very articulate in this letter and beyond about all of those things.
You weren't always a fan. Tell us about how you changed.
Well, from the beginning of the primary, you know, honestly, it's been an evolving friendship because you trust, but you must verify. And so we had a lot of questions along the way, and that friendship developed over time, just like you would with any friendship. You challenge when you think somebody's not doing a great job, they adapt and change, and he's moved in the right direction and has become a very clear and articulate advocate.
Good luck with the campaign. Marjorie Dannenfelser, Susan B. Anthony List.
Thank you.
There's one thing Trump and Clinton can both agree on, the importance of this election. Hillary Clinton came to the swing state of Virginia to campaign.
The next 53 days will shape the next 50 years. The future of our children and grandchildren hangs in the balance.
Clinton spoke this morning to the Black Women's Agenda Symposium in Washington and enlisted First Lady Michelle Obama to campaign for her. And as she campaigned for the first time for Clinton, Mrs. Obama highlighted what she considers her husband's accomplishments.
Progress like bringing health care to 20 million people, creating 15 million private sector jobs, helping millions of young people like all of you afford college, expanding LGBT rights and marriage equality.
Former presidential candidate John Kasich makes an unusual appearance at the White House. The Republican governor supports President Obama's proposed Trans-Pacific Partnership Trade Deal, or TPP.
But the idea that I'm a Republican and therefore I can't work with Democrats, or you're a Democrat and you can't work with Republicans, how does anybody think that the issues of debt, Social Security, Medicare, health care, any of these issues are going to be resolved when we spend all of our time fighting with one another?
Kasich also weighed in on the presidential race, describing it as surreal and stranger than fiction. Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton have both criticized the proposed trade deal. Other stories our EWTN News Nightly team is covering in today's world. A top State Department official says ISIS has lost half of its territory in Iraq. The announcement comes as Iraqi troops prepare to take back the country's second largest city. Wyatt Goolsby reports.
Lauren, Deputy Secretary of State Tony Blinken is in Baghdad. He's pledging more than $180 million towards the humanitarian crisis in Iraq, money that will go towards helping people who have lost their homes due to the violence.
Hundreds of Sunni militiamen at this military base in northern Iraq are getting ready for an all-out assault on Mosul. A militia captain with the unit says this group will be the first to enter Iraq's second largest city, the last urban stronghold of the Islamic State in the country. The U.S. military continues to aid Iraqi troops and Sunni militias from the air. The Obama administration says the combination is working, claiming the U.S.-led coalition has retaken half of ISIS territory. But national security expert Justin Johnson questions that number.
This measurement is a little bit of an abstraction. Are you measuring parts of the desert that nobody lives in?
Johnson says Iraqi forces have been making progress bit by bit, but with key cities like Mosul still under ISIS control, he says there's still a lot more the U.S. could do.
The president himself actually needs to invest some time in trying to work towards political solutions so that when you do get territory back, it doesn't just revert into partisan fighting.
According to the United Nations, more than 3 million Iraqis remain displaced. Both the United Nations and the U.S. say an operation to retake Mosul could displace another 1 million people. Many of those are religious or ethnic minorities, like Christians. The former Chaldean Catholic Archbishop of Mosul says many who have fled are not likely to ever return.
The mentality of the people changed, and I think after 2014, many of them, they try to find another option for their life.
The Archbishop is calling on the West to help liberate the territory still controlled by ISIS. He says it would be a help not only to the Christians and Yazidis, but to all Iraqis. Lauren?
Thank you, Wyatt. A suicide bombing inside a Pakistan mosque kills at least 24 people, and at least 28 more are wounded, including children. Tribal police say the bombing took place during Friday prayers, and several are in critical condition. It's not clear if the Taliban or another group is responsible for the attack. Pope Francis plans to meet with families who lost loved ones in the Nice truck attack. The Vatican says the Pope will host the victims' families in Paul VI Hall on Saturday, September 24th. July's terror attack in France killed more than 80 people. And Pope Francis meets with new bishops from around the world who have gathered at the Vatican for orientation and fellowship. Bishop Robert Barron is Auxiliary Bishop of Los Angeles and the founder of Word on Fire Ministries. He joins us from Rome. Welcome to the program.
Good to be with you.
You're attending the school for new bishops there, and I think you're calling them baby bishops like yourself. What's been on the agenda?
Well, that's the nickname we give it, is Baby Bishop School. Officially, it's the, I think, school for new bishops. And it's a very interesting week. We're out here about 5 miles west of where we are right now, and we cover a lot of different topics. So the bishops are addressed on matters from canon law and church administration to spirituality. So the practical, the theoretical, the spiritual. And all the time we're praying a lot, I must say. Evening prayer, morning prayer, beautifully done. And extended masses, liturgies. So it's kind of like a retreat/seminar, let's call it. But it's a good experience.
What do you think the most important task for bishops will be when they return to the U.S.?
Well, I would say declaring the resurrection of Jesus. The Pope talked about it today. We met with him, and we have to always cut to the chase, it seems to me. You know, we all have administrative responsibilities, a lot of practical concerns, and so on. But when you get down to it, a bishop is someone who's been called into close intimacy with the Lord so as to announce his resurrection to the world. And I would say, especially in our hyper-secularized culture, that remains the primary task of the bishop. So we're the successors of that little band that Jesus formed around himself to shape their minds and hearts to announce his gospel to the world. And so everything else, all the administrative and canonical concerns are legitimate, but they're in service of this great task of proclaiming the resurrection. I think that's task number one.
What have you learned from each other? You're all from all around the world.
It was a very interesting experience last night. They asked 8 of us. I was asked to speak about the American cultural setting. Then we had representatives from Asia, from Africa, from Oceania, from Europe, South America. And we each spoke for about 5 minutes, just saying what the church is facing in different parts of the world. And you realize, of course, we face secularization as a major problem in the Western countries. Other parts of the world, that's not the primary concern. It might be something much more basic. It might be questions of food and drink and sustenance. Other parts of the world, it's Christian persecution. So we're being harassed, if you want, by the secular state, but other parts of the world, people are being killed by opponents of the church. And so it was a beautiful experience to sit in that auditorium last night and hear from our brother bishops of what's facing the church all over the world.
All right, Bishop Robert Barron, Auxiliary Bishop of Los Angeles, thank you so much for joining us.
God bless you. Thank you.
Coming up, criminal justice reform. One archbishop tells us what came out of his meeting at the White House. And internet safety, the push to protect kids from inappropriate content. Pope Francis encourages people to look to the future. He calls it the day after tomorrow, always looking ahead to the time when Jesus will take us, all changed, on clouds, to stay forever with him. The Pope made the remarks at Mass this morning. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. The Obama administration says U.S. taxpayers spend $80 billion to keep people behind bars, and many of the prisoners are serving excessive sentences for nonviolent crimes. The president met with a group of criminal justice reform advocates at the White House yesterday, including a group of faith leaders. Archbishop Thomas Wensky of the Archdiocese of Miami joins us now. President Obama has been fighting to change the criminal justice system since his time in the Senate. Is this an area where the church and the administration can actually agree on some things?
Yes, I think so. And not only the church and the administration, but also prominent Republicans would also agree on the necessity of making some very important changes in our criminal justice system.
And what would those be?
Well, right now, we have over 2 million people incarcerated in the United States. And this is a higher number of people incarcerated than the Soviet Union incarcerated during its lifetime. And so this is affecting thousands of families throughout the United States who are separated from loved ones. It's causing the breakup of many families because of extended incarceration rates. This is a problem because it's very expensive for the United States, for our nation to incarcerate so many people, but it also has a corresponding human cost, which is the breakup of families.
Sure. How should Catholics, Archbishop, prioritize criminal justice with other issues?
Well, I think, again, Catholic social teaching is based on the dignity and of the human person. And so it is this is part of a life issue for us because again we believe in a God of second chances, and so we think that punishment should be restorative. There should be restorative justice and not just retribution.
Archbishop Thomas Wensky of the Archdiocese of Miami, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
One internet safety group says presidential candidates need to pledge to protect children. Donna Rice Hughes is president and CEO of Enough is Enough, a group that tries and fights to make the internet safer for children and families. Donna, welcome to the program.
Good to be with you.
Tell me a little bit about what you have done with this pledge. You submitted it to both the Trump campaign and to the Hillary Clinton campaign.
That's right. And this is a bipartisan issue. This is so important. And we got a great response. Donald Trump signed the pledge right away. The Hillary Clinton's campaign got back to us and said they had a policy against signing pledges, but she sent a letter of support.
You've been involved in internet safety since the mid-90s. Have the risks evolved since then?
Well, it's gotten worse, and for a number of reasons, and this is why the pledge is so important, because law enforcement has not had the adequate tools and resources to enforce all of the laws on the books. So what we're asking the next president to do is to enforce the obscenity laws. Those haven't been enforced at all under this past administration. That's why we've got hardcore material everywhere on the internet that kids have access to. And the child pornography and the sexual trafficking laws, as well as the sex predation laws, they also need to be adequately resourced, and this is a priority.
Is the problem that there aren't enough police to deal with this issue? I would think it's also a problem of catching somebody uploading this information or violating the obscenity laws.
Well, it's all of the above. With respect to obscenity laws, pornography that's on the internet, most of it is prosecutable, but it's there because it hasn't been prosecuted. And so it's been allowed. You asked, has it gotten worse? It has, because now hardcore extreme material is now mainstream. And kids have access to it.
And it's up to parents
That's
to
right.
police it on their own
That's
instead
right.
of going to the originator of the content and saying, this is illegal.
This is illegal, this is enough. So it's hardcore material, child pornography. There's been a 774% increase in reported images of child pornography recently. So this is bad. And we want this topic to be covered in the presidential debates. This is important.
In the debates especially, you're right, Donna.
This is about our children, and our children are our future.
Thank you so much for joining us. Donna Rice Hughes, President and CEO of Enough is Enough. Up next, consecrated virgins. One woman shares her dramatic story, how her magazine article draws attention to a rare vow. And Mother Angelica Way, our foundress, receives a special honor. Today we remember two saints from the 3rd century, Saints Cornelius and Cyprian. Cornelius was pope and Cyprian was a bishop. The two were close friends and both died as martyrs. Saint Cornelius and Cyprian, pray for us. Thank you for joining us this evening. I'm Lauren Ashburn. The typically racy Cosmopolitan magazine ran an atypical piece this week. They posted an article entitled, "I am happily married to God as a consecrated virgin." In the article, the young Catholic woman writes, "My decision did not come lightly. I like to tell people I did not give up romantic relationships for an idea. I fell in love with a person, Jesus Christ. I understood the lifelong commitment this would mean, so I made sure I was confident this was God's will for me." And joining us right now is the author of that article, Carmen Briceño. Carmen, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me.
There are 3,000 consecrated virgins around the world, about 300 in the United States, but the vocation isn't often discussed. Tell us, what does it mean?
As a consecrated virgin, it means you're fully espoused to Christ, like a bride, completely to Christ, but with your own charisms, with your own gifts, with your own talents. And so just like in religious life, you are completely vowed fully for God for life, but it is distinct in the sense that we don't live necessarily in community, we don't have a habit, we don't necessarily have a superior, and even a founder. Our founder is a love for Jesus Christ himself.
How did you choose this path? Give me some insight into your beautiful journey.
Absolutely. It all started in World Youth Day, 2005, with
World Youth Day.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It was Pope Benedict's first World Youth Day, and I was not going there thinking that I had an inkling for vocation at all, but something made me just stop and say, I think God may be asking more from me, and I felt such joy and peace with that. So I took my time after that. I entered a house of discernment, which is a wonderful house where women who were wondering, is God calling me to consecrated life?
Meaning to being a nun?
To being consecrated life in general, because what happens is a lot of young women may want to enter into religious life, but they don't know which one.
Right.
So this was just kind of, is God calling me to be fully his, not necessarily attached to a religious order? And so we had the time to pray, to really discern, to talk with our spiritual director, and I found and fell in love with consecrated virginity.
Tell me, what kind of witness do you hope to provide to other Catholic women, and how do they go about finding a house like this, or how do they go about becoming a consecrated?
I would just very much encourage everybody to go to consecratedvirgins.org, and it has all the information that you really need of how do I discern, is this what God is calling me? It's a beautiful, unique vocation where it really takes you and your whole feminine person with all your gifts and talents to be a complete gift to Christ.
But you have to go through the diocese to see if they have a consecrated life program.
Right, so every diocese, it's up to the bishop to consecrate the virgins within his diocese. And also at consecratedvirgins.org, they do say which diocese accept consecrated virgins, and many bishops would like also to be approached. So just because there haven't been any consecrated virgins doesn't mean that you can't be the first within your diocese.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate you joining us. Carmen Briceño.
Thank you so much.
Pope Francis makes a surprise visit to a neonatal unit. Look at these beautiful pictures. The Holy Father donned scrubs, including booties, and held a preemie. He toured the neonatal unit, comforting family. He spends one Friday each month performing a work of mercy, and the Vatican says he wants to send a message about respecting life at all stages, from conception to natural death. And an honor today for our foundress, Mother Angelica, on a street outside of EWTN's headquarters in Irondale, Alabama. The city renamed the street Mother Angelica Way. Both EWTN Chairman and CEO Michael Warsaw and the city's mayor joined in the ribbon cutting.
Mother often reminded all of us that we need to dare to do the ridiculous so that God can accomplish the miraculous.
EWTN is also honoring Mother Angelica during this weekend's family celebration in downtown Birmingham. Go to EWTN.com and you can learn more about the free event. That does it for us. For the EWTN News Nightly team, I'm Lauren Ashburn. Good night and God bless.